Hello, Internet. Happy Friday. My name is Miles Bassett, and this is Ask Wildman. It is Friday. We're a day late here. Sorry about that for anyone looking for us yesterday, but we're going to try to stay on that consistent schedule moving forward. But we got a lot going on here. With that being said, we want to get on here, do our live stream, give you some information, answer your questions if at all possible. So here we are. Again, this is Ask Wildman. It's an open Q&A for me and my team at Wildman Web Solutions. We're a full-service digital marketing agency. And so we're here to answer your questions about technology, marketing, running a business, or if you just want to ask us how our day is going, you can throw those questions below in the comments. We'll be watching those and answering any questions that come up during the live stream. If you're seeing this later and you missed us live, you can still ask us. You can get your questions answered. You can ask your questions by emailing us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com. I have that address scrolling below me and that ticker there. So send us your emails. We'll either respond right there or use your questions as our subject matter for next week's live stream. We'll be back here next Thursday at noon and doing our live stream. So pick your poison. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. Grab one of those. We'll be live streaming and answering your questions. All right, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started with today's show. And to do that, I'm going to bring in Mike Hanna. Mike, you ready?
Ready, Miles.
There we are. Hello.
Hello. I have a giant pile. There we go. There I can see myself. Hello. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. Happy to be on here live with you and hopefully putting out some quick, useful tips for the internet.
100%. Yeah. Let's help some people out.
All right. Again, we're a digital marketing agency. We focus primarily on getting small businesses online, helping them to leverage technology to grow and achieve their goals. So at some point early pandemic, we started getting a lot of questions about people getting online for the first time. So we started doing this live stream to just knock those all out in one fell swoop, answer a lot of frequently asked questions that we get, and provide you a resource to get your questions answered. So if you like what we're doing here, you think our answers are good, and you might know someone that has some questions, please give us a like, share, follow. You know the drill. If we can get in front of more people, we can answer more questions. So today, Mike, I think you wanted to take this off the top. You had some subjects you wanted to address. So I'll just hand it right over to you.
Yeah, well, we had a couple different questions that kind of all fall under the same subject matter. So I thought it'd be good if we just did a quick tutorial, if you will, over some basics about copywriting or sales copy, if you will, in terms of advertising. And then I'll flip it over to you, Miles, and you can talk about it in terms of how people should position their copy on the website. But yeah, copy. It's one of the most important things, but sometimes I feel like it gets a little underappreciated, and especially in today's society where video is the premium medium that a lot of people are using, and sometimes people get more focused on the flash than the substance. So today we're going to take it back a notch and talk about the substance, because as I've said many times before on the show, and if you're a client of ours, you've probably heard, it's much more important what you're going to say to somebody than who you're saying it to, or how you're saying it, or where you're saying it. It's the message that really matters. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is some key pitfalls hopefully you can avoid. And maybe in a future episode, we'll dig a little deeper and get into a little bit more advanced copywriting tactics and things like that. But I've been seeing a lot of ads out there lately, especially on Facebook and Instagram, that I just have to shake my head at and say, ooh, wish you hadn't have done that, because they're breaking a lot of the key cardinal rules. And to me, it's a waste of money. Don't put an ad out there that is breaking key cardinal rules of copywriting, because it's probably not going to be very effective, and you're not going to get a good ROI on your ad. So what are some of these things that I'm talking about? Well, the biggest one out there, and this has been the biggest cardinal sin since the dawn of time, and it's still people can't resist doing it. This is like the bite of the apple in the Garden of Eden, Miles, in terms of copywriting world, but that is unsubstantiated claims. And it's a really easy trap to fall into, because what do? when we're copywriting. I mean, what are we really doing? We're talking about ourselves, right? Which seems easy enough, but a huge pitfall is when we make an unsubstantiated claim that we're the best at something, or we can do something better than everybody else, or whatever it is, without providing any facts, any evidence, any third party that is saying, yes, this is actually true. And if you just next time you're watching TV, or you're scrolling on Facebook or whatever it is, and you see some ads, just check them out for yourself, and you'd be surprised how many times somebody is using an unsubstantiated claim. And these claims, like I said, could be wide ranging. It could be that something is going to cure something, or the classic pitfall is, we're the best. Well, says who? And we've talked about this before on the show, but back in the day, we used to say that people, Americans specifically, were inundated with over 5,000 marketing messages every single day. Well, that was before we all had the internet in our pocket. And so likely that number is exponentially higher. And so what that means is that people just become tone deaf to these kind of things, and they don't believe it, and they certainly don't remember it. We have to, every single time that we get our message out there, that we create an ad, if we're going to make a claim, that's okay. But we have to back it up with some sort of evidence. We have to actually convince people that what we're saying is true. And to be perfectly honest, a lot of people, when you just say you're the best at something, they automatically know that you're lying. And so it takes you down, several pegs in how you're viewed, because very few people or companies or entities are actually the best. We all think we're the best, right? I mean, that's why we're in the business, but very few of us are actually the best. And so don't just throw those kind of terms around. Now, if you won Best of Lawrence, for those of you who are watching from Lawrence, what that is. Okay, then you can say, hey, we got number one. We won Best of Lawrence because somebody besides you is saying it. That is a substantiated claim. But if I just go on there and I say I'm the best, no. Big no. So go back through your copy points first and foremost, and make sure that you're not making unsubstantiated claims. That is such a big mistake out there that it's easy to fall into. Go ahead, Miles.
Quick line there between a subjective claim and an unsubstantiated claim. We're not necessarily saying that at any point in your copywriting you can't have something that's a little bit more on the subjective side. You just have to be backing it up with something.
100%. Yeah. And so that could be a piece of evidence, or like I used the third party example, if somebody else has actually ranked you as the best. Yeah, testimonial. Or at least give me the why. Say, hey, we're the best hardware store in town because X, Y, and Z. But what a lot of people do is they say, we're the best hardware store in town because we were family owned and we've been here since 1947. Well, none of those things make you actually the best at anything, right? Unless it's just a game of who's around the longest. But that's not what we actually care about as consumers. We care about who's going to get us the best product at the best price and the best service, right? So those are the things that we have to bring out to the forefront. Any other questions on that, Mars, or clarification?
I just wanted to draw that line really quick and make sure that we were including that and kind of drawing that distinction again between unsubstantiated and subjective.
Right. And then the next thing that we often do, that's a huge mistake, is we say things that the audience doesn't care about or that the audience should already assume. And so the trick that I always do is, after you make a statement in an ad or a message or whatever, see if it's easy to say after that, well, duh, or I'd hope so. I have friendly service and we take care of our customers. Well, I would certainly hope that you're not being rude to your customers and you're trying to take care of them, right? It is something that we don't need to tell people in our ads. We need to go beyond that, and we need to show them what we're actually doing and the results that we're getting for our customers and how it's benefiting them. Always reverse engineer the person or the audience that you're talking to and figure out what they want and lead with that first. We talked about Jay Abrams before on the show. Jay Abraham, one of the greatest copywriters of all time. he uses the nail and the hammer and the picture frame example, that when somebody walks into a hardware store, they aren't actually walking in there to buy a nail, to buy a hammer, and to buy a picture frame. What they're doing is they're trying to find a way to get the picture of their daughter playing in their first soccer game on the desk, so when they're hard at work or on the wall next to their desk, they can look up and they can have that great memory as they're working hard through their day of their daughter in their first soccer game. So talk about the feeling that the person's going to get when they see their daughter in their first soccer game after a long day of work or in the middle of a long day of work on the picture on the desk or on the wall. Don't talk about, I have the best hammers and nails in town, because no one's going to believe it and they really don't care. So those are some really key principles that I want to make sure that everybody is doing an audit of their copy. And the thing about copywriting, even for somebody like me that has been doing it a long time now, we could always get better. We can always learn. We can always improve our copywriting. There is no perfect master copywriter out there. And so it's really important that you're pushing yourself to do better copy and to audit it and to have ideas off of your colleagues and things like that. Because like I said, it is the most important factor in if your ad or your message is going to have success. And so I've got some props, a couple of tidbits that I pulled off the bookshelf if people want to dig deep into this. I highly recommend this book, The Secrets of Copywriting. This is a fantastic book. You can get it, I think, for like $10 or something on Amazon. And Jim Edwards also has a great Facebook group that I would recommend if you're into Facebook groups on Facebook. The classic Ogilvy on advertising. Hopefully you guys can see that. One of the legendary admin of all time. And he wrote this book a long time ago, back in the 60s, but there's still some principles in here that will definitely help you become a better copywriter and sell more, no matter what you're doing. And then the other one, I don't know what happened. It's not on my bookshelf. I must have lent it out to somebody. I'm completely embarrassed. But Rory Williams' Wizard of Ads. And just go to wizardofads.org, I believe. And he's got a whole series of books on there. Some of them deal specifically with copywriting. But either one of those or all three of them, I would highly recommend if somebody wants to do a deep dive and really become a better copywriter. So, Miles, that is my spiel on the ad side of things. But as we know today, most people are doing business through a website, and so it's super important that we take these principles, even the ones from the 1960s, and apply them, the ones that work still, apply them effectively in the web space. So can you talk a little bit about the positioning and the importance and how we should go about executing copy on our website specifically?
Absolutely. So those tips that you gave here and copywriting in general definitely translate over into the digital space. But we're talking about writing copy on social media for your posts, for your online ads, or more extensively, maybe for your own website. I'd say some of the biggest pitfalls that I see, I guess the false assumption that people don't, people think that people don't read. People don't actually look at the copy. So it gets overlooked. You talked about at the very beginning how copywriting is very often overlooked, or it's underappreciated. I get a lot of people talking to me, at least when we're developing websites, saying people don't read this stuff anymore. People don't actually read websites. I don't know where people really get that, because that's just not true. It's absolutely not true. Now, there is definitely a place for communicating outside of words, using the proper design in a website, using the proper imagery, throwing a video in there. Video is, of course, the king of content, but that doesn't mean that you can just skip out on the whole written side of everything. People do read copy, whether, again, they're looking at your Facebook posts or your ads or your entire website. I guess that's the first and probably the most common thing that I see when people come to me on the technical end. They're just thinking that no one reads anymore, and they can just skip out on that. So give copywriting its time and give it its due, because it is still very important. There's two things that are very important as far as copy goes on a website. One is the actual human readability. You have to make sure that it is structured properly, it's written well. You've got a font that's legible. You have a big enough point size so that people can read it, even if they're looking at it on a small screen. So really think about that human user that's finding your website and they're reading through it. You're probably going to want to order it properly so that the most important things are closer to the top of the page or above the fold. Actually, I just listened to a whole speech about this. I think it was in Ramsey's Entree Leadership podcast on a guy who was just going through and analyzing people's websites. Again, I have to go back and find the details, but maybe I can throw the link into this live stream later. And he was going through and analyzing people's websites and just looking at this copy at the top and saying, look, I have no idea what you do. I can see in the name of your business here. That's great. But like, what is this? Why do I care about this?
Yeah.
He was
don't bury the lead, right?
Right. And he was getting on to one woman. She, I believe, had a flower shop or something. And her call to action just didn't make any sense. It said like, connect with me or something. He's like, no, have it say buy flowers or something very direct. I should know what's going to happen when I click this button. And so when we think about copywriting, a lot of times I think people are thinking about writing these big, huge prose and writing a whole novel about their business on their website. But it also applies to the short little things. The title across the top of your page better be fairly self-explanatory. The calls to action on your primary links and buttons and your navigation across the site, each one of those pages should be titled in such a way that it is quick, it's to the point, but it's also very descriptive. And then think about the real estate on your site. Put the important things at the top, and then as you scroll down further, think, I'm someone that's on this website. I've already seen that top line information. I'm still scrolling. I probably want some more detailed information at this point. That's where you can put your novel. That's where you can put your bio. That's where you can really expand out. And that leads me to the second point on copy, and that is the technical side. So we're not, number one is looking at the human readers, the actual users of your website. The second point is on the technical side. So that's how do search engines see your website? How do crawlers and other automated processes out there look at your site? They're looking at your copy, and more and more, they are analyzing that copy in a more comprehensive way. They're not just looking for particular keywords. They're looking for proper sentence structure. There are readers out there, and we have this built into some of our tools that can find a particular keyword, and then look on either end of that keyword on the sentence before and the sentence after and determine the connotation. Are you talking about this thing in a positive or negative light? In what context are you discussing this keyword? And so our bots and our technical apparatuses out there are actually getting better at understanding copy all the time. So it's becoming more and more important to have good quality copy. See, in the early days of the internet, you still had those 2 points. You had to be human readable, usable for actual humans, and you had to have the technical side. But if you just threw all of your keywords as a jumbled up mess onto your website, search engines would love it. Yeah, that is becoming less and less the case. So now it's more important than ever, at least one could argue, to have good quality copy on there where you're writing for the human users and you're sprinkling in your keywords properly. You're thinking about the technical side of things without sacrificing the overall quality. So those are the two major features that you want to be thinking about when you're developing content, copy for anything in the online space. This applies to your social media, this applies to your advertising campaigns, and this applies to your website or anywhere else that you are writing and posting something online. Make sure that it is relevant. I guess first point is don't skip over it. Don't think that no one reads your website. Don't think that this is something that you can just go light on and never give it give it the time of day. And then make sure it is human readable. It's actually helpful for your users. It's clear and explanatory. It's not too artsy, so that people can come on here and they know what they're looking at. They know where they're going. They know what this means. And then think on the technical side as well. Make sure that your copy is well constructed. Make sure that you have the proper keyword structured in there, sprinkled throughout, and that you are putting in really good quality, long form content wherever you can.
Great points, Miles. And you actually brought up something really interesting there that's making me think. So about the sentence structure. Yeah, that's dangerous. Because back when I was a young admin, one of the hardest things I had to learn was to not write ads in proper sentence structure. And because I'd come from a writing background and I've written, screenplays and short stories and all these things that I like to write, and I could be a little wordy with it, and a little too descriptive. And luckily, I had a really great sales manager who helped me, get rid of that. And he was a little bit mean about it, and when he'd make me, he'd cross out things and no, go back and do it again, and I have to do it, a dozen or so times over till I could get it right. Because when you're really writing great, and I'm talking about the human side, when you're really writing great sales copy specifically, you don't want to write like you write. You want to write like people talk. You want to write like people are actually talking face to face like this, like it's a salesman talking to you in your living room. And so you may need to adjust that, I guess is what you're saying now, on the technical side. So Google, and these other entities won't think that this is disjumbled sentence structure. Am I understanding what you're saying there correctly?
Possibly, yeah. So what it's looking for, it's not necessarily looking for MLA, perfect structured English or something along those lines. But what people used to do is just like something like keyword stuffing, where they would take this list of keywords they were supposed to put in there and just throw it at a web page, literally in just lists, piles, non-sentences. So I guess I'm not saying to go so far as to throw out your ad copy because it's not perfectly punctuated. You can still write things in a fairly, I guess, unofficial or chill syntax. You don't have to, you don't have to write like you're writing for a college entrance exam or something. Okay. But do write things out in long form, do write actual sentences. Just throwing in your favorite words in big fonts as headers isn't going to do it anymore. Got it. Yeah, and then there are some elements. So this is part of what we do for our search analysis as well, is when we analyze the copy on a page, because there are some things that'll throw up flags for automated processes that maybe are totally fine for actual human readers, and a lot of those are very it's just common vernacular or slang language or sales language on there that doesn't translate well to the technical side. So kind of balancing those two sides is probably going to be a challenge here over the in the near future and over the upcoming years. Yeah.
And then it'll be another challenge when we have to switch everything to voice first, right? Because then we'll really just be writing copy how we speak. And then the other great point that I wanted to touch on was is I interrupted you and said, don't bury the lead, right? And so here's a couple quick tactics that people can use on social media. And again, I see this mistake often is, Facebook, for example, on our mobile feed, we have 3 lines that we can do, and it's going to say see more. I can't tell you how many times I see people write one line and then skip, like they're writing a paragraph, and then you have to see more, and then it's all the actually important copy. So don't bury the leads. That 3 lines that you have is precious real estate, and make sure that you take all of that real estate and you put the most important thing to your audience there. Again, reverse engineer their need and your why, and put that together. And that has got to be what every single post, ad, et cetera has, is the most important thing right there at the top. And that's going to bring them in to actually click see more, or actually stop to even read it at the start. And then we mentioned video briefly, but all these same things apply when we're writing scripts for video or a podcast or whatever kind of content that we're doing out there. And I was talking with a client this morning about this. You've got to get somebody's attention as they're scrolling through the feed. I mean, that's the most important thing that we can do right now. And so a quick little tip that we'll do is whoever we're talking to, whoever our target audience is, we will literally start out the script of the video saying their name, So if it's women in Kansas City, that's how we start out the script. right? If it's people with diabetes, that's how we start out the script. If it's people that want to eat healthier, that's how we start out the script. And we get their attention. It's an old sales tactic, you know. If I say your name, if I say, "Hey, Miles," I'm going to get his attention rather if I just start talking out of the blue, right? He's thinking about something else, but if I, "Hey, Miles," oh, what? He stops thinking about those other things and he clues into what I'm saying. And then again, front stuff the most important things in the first 10 seconds. And if you get them hooked and you get them stopped in there, it doesn't matter if your video is 20 minutes long, as long as it's good content. But you're never going to get anybody to watch anything if you don't get their attention within the first few seconds. And you got to reverse engineer what their want and their need and your why is, and put that in there. So
that's probably
don't
where
bury
the idea that people don't read anymore, people don't read websites comes from. It's like, no, they don't read uninteresting stuff.
100%.
And so you have to be interesting to begin with, but then I'll sit down and read through all of the copy on a website. I'll read through the entire homepage of someone that, you know, a new vendor or a potential new client or someone I'm going to be working with that I want to know more about. I'm interested in them. And so, yeah, I'm going to read through it. Someone who's uninterested in you or in your business isn't going to read everything. So there may be something where you have to capture their attention at the very beginning of a video or at the top of your website with your copy or with your imagery in order to pull them into the point of interest where they're actually going to look and read through that long form stuff. But that's not to say that people don't read copy anymore. It's just got to be good copy. It's got to be interesting. And to that point, I did just throw this link into the comments here that I referenced a little bit ago. This is from Dave Ramsey's Entree Leadership Program, where Donald Miller of StoryBrand went through and analyzed a bunch of people's websites live on stage to their faces, which was really funny. But, you know, just pointing out little bits and pieces about the structure, a lot about the copy on there, I would definitely recommend it. It's not very long if you're interested in doing that, and then go through and try to do the same kind of analysis and ask the same kind of questions that he does of your own website.
Love it. Yeah.
Well, so that is some very actionable, real tips on everything. We did say we were going to keep it short, and we're running up on a half hour here. So do you have any closing thoughts on copywriting, Mike?
Just, you know, really want to encourage people to audit what they're doing and to really, you know, make a strenuous point in order to get better. Because to me, it's not worth putting something out there unless it's good. And again, how do we really know it's good? By putting multiple things out there and letting the market decide. You know, let's not insulate ourselves and decide between ourselves what is good. Let's put out multiple ideas and then track it and figure out what is the market really responding to, and then triple down on that.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we threw out a couple of useful tidbits when it comes to copy. Don't overlook your copy. It's a very underappreciated element of marketing. It's useful on your social media, on your website, and pretty much anything else that you do out there. If you are in the digital space, make sure you're thinking about the human element and the technology element. Don't lean all the way to one side or the other. Again, check that link that I put there in the comments. And if you have any other questions, if you want us to take a deep dive in this, or you have your own 2 cents, please throw that in the comments below. We'll be watching those as they come up. Otherwise, we'll be back here next week to answer your questions, live streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube next Thursday at noon. Mike, thank you very much. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.